Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to be doing some work, electrical work, on our 1976 Dodge truck here. We've got a few things we want to tackle. Number one, there is a leak. So I can leave this, if I unhook the battery, I can leave it sit for a year. And when I come back, it'll start. If I leave the battery hooked up, 2 days and it's dead. So it's got a leak somewhere. We're gonna find that. I think I know what it is, but we'll have a look. Also, apparently in the past there was a problem with the turn signal switch, the hazard light, the little pull switch on the side. There was some problem with it, and the hazard lights ended up controlled by a toggle switch on the dash. But as part of our transmission job that we've done previously, I have to take the top end of the steering column apart because something's discombobulated in there, and there's a lot of play in the shift collar, between the shift collar and the actual shift tube that goes down through the column. So while we're in there, we're going to try and diagnose what's up with the turn signal switch, and if we have to, we'll swap it out. It's a part anyway, right? And we're going to put all LED lighting in the cluster, the radio, and the clearance lights on the roof. Let's get started. So the first step here, I've removed the toggle switch that was there in the dash, and I've just kind of reconnected the wires temporarily. Now, one thing I could tell for sure was, once I looked at this, is that this turn signal switch that's in this steering column is not the original one. It's from a car. I can tell by the Chrysler made, you know, Dodge, Plymouth, and Chrysler cars, and Dodge, Plymouth, and Fargo trucks. And you think they would all be the same, but there are differences. And one of the differences in the trucks, all the wires are different colors. There is a few things that are common, like the, you know, orange for dash lighting is common between cars and trucks. But a lot of the other stuff, they're all different colors. Stuff that you expect to be green on a car is red on a truck, and etc., etc. So anyway, that being said, the first thing that I noticed is up here in the glove box, or under the glove box lid, is our fuse box, which is pretty handy. And these are the two flashers. Now what I noticed is the hazard flasher, where's our little probe here? Okay, this should be hot, and it's not. And you can see, we're good, we're live, right? That should be hot, and it's not. And I looked on all the diagrams that I could find, and this should be a pink wire that goes from here right to this fuse, and it's not. It's a gray wire, and it should also go over to the brake light switch. Now, the brake light switch is hot with a gray wire, but the gray wire is not hot over to here. So we have to figure that out. And then this one here is the blue wire that goes over to the turn signal switch. So that's the first thing we have to do, is get this terminal livened up. Then we can put our flasher back in and see if we've got any life here at the turn signal switch. All right, so there's the flasher that was being used when it was on the toggle switch for the hazard lights. So what I've done is I've got that and made sure it's live, and I've hooked it back into there. Now we should see down here the blue wire, the dark blue wire in the harness. That should make the flasher flash. Let's see here, we can find it. And there you have it. That works. Okay, so what we're going to do now is plug the switch back in and see if it works from the steering column. There we go. Let's see what happens. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we can just get that wire hooked into the bottom of the fuse box there, put our flasher back in, and the hazard lights will be fixed. Okay, so we got that all back together. Let's see what happens when we pull the switch. There we go. Hazard lights working again. Perfect. So now we don't have to take the switch out of the steering column. That's good. Now we just have to replace these 3 wires here where the toggle switch had been spliced into the hazard switch circuit. Easy peasy. Now we're going to change the dash lighting to LED. Here's our new bulbs. We've got blue ones. So I need the push-in ones for some of them. And the twist-in ones for others. And here's some clear ones for all our indicator lights. Alright, we've got our dash cluster out, so now we're going to start changing bulbs. A lot of them are in the back of the cluster, but there are some in here. You can see that one there and that one there. Those are for the heater controls and the wiper switch, and there's another one down in the ashtray. So we'll get those 3 changed first, and we'll change the one in our oil pressure gauge. Oh, and there's probably one in there. See the indicator for the cargo light. So now we're going to change all these. This one, this one, this one, and this one are indicators. So they get clear bulbs. And then the rest of them, oh, that's an indicator too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indicators. And then these 1, 2, 3 are illumination. They get blue bulbs. All right. So while we're dealing with this cluster, we're going to have to test all of these because they are diodes. The LEDs are diodes, and they're polarity sensitive. So we may have some of these in backwards. We'll have to test them, and whichever ones don't work, switch them around the other way, and then they'll work. Another thing we got to bear in mind is we have here, you can see the 1976 to 1980 plastic cluster base. 1975 only was a zinc cast or white metal cast, and everybody likes to use those because what happens with these is these connections here, the alt ammeter, sometimes get hot and they'll melt the whole corner of this, especially if somebody's just gone to the junkyard and put a much bigger alternator than the truck came with, because this stuff is all geared to support the 60 amp alternator. Like here, the 10 gauge wire in the dash for the ammeter. If you upgrade your alternator, you really need to upgrade this. Now, you don't have to pull a whole nother wire all the way up through the cab of the truck. Leave this stuff. Just run another separate 10 gauge wire directly from the output stud of the alternator right to the battery stud on the starter relay, or right to the battery clamp bolt on the battery. And that'll take half what the alternator is doing and bypass this. So your ammeter will still work. It won't have the sweep that it had, but it'll still work. It'll give you an idea what's going on. That's the easiest way of dealing with that. So let's test this thing. Some of these, you have to follow that. See, anywhere where you see a screw through the circuit board, those are that's your ground circuit. So you can tell, because some of these lights may be on the hot side of the circuit, being that these lights don't go directly to ground. You can see that one does, but that one doesn't. See, that's your oil pressure light. So this is powered. It's powered by ignition, right? And then it goes and grounds through the switch. So we're going to grab a battery and get on the bench and test all these lights. Last one is the bulb in the radio. Some of these radios, it's easy. You just snap a little thing out and it's right there. This one, you have to take the bottom plate off, and the light is in there. All right, I got everything, all the light bulbs changed. Now I can go ahead and put it back together. A couple of things I've kind of noticed just goofing around with it. I should have got green LEDs, not blue, but that's okay. I can change them anytime. I am eventually going to take the whole inside of this truck apart and do some other stuff to it, but that's a job for another day. And what else I need is the dimmer is not really compatible with LEDs. So we've gone ahead and ordered a a pulse width modulation device. That's what dims your LEDs. And we'll just mount it down on the bottom of the dash here, out of sight somewhere. It'll be okay. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put this back together now. We'll see what it looks like. Whatever it looks like is what we're going to have to live with for now. Okay, well, it's dark in here. Let's see what this thing looks like. Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah, I think, would prefer green. But that's okay for now. I just wanted to make sure that the illumination works. Now we're going to flick the ignition on. Oil light works. See, we've only got one indicator working now. Oh, there it goes. High beam indicator works. Battery's getting dead. Not really a ton of control over these, but there is a little. There's the clearance lights with LED bulbs in them. I like those. I think I'm going to buy... I ran out. The dash took 5, and they took 5, and it was a pack of 10. So I'm going to buy another pack of 10, and I'm going to do the front side markers and the license plate lights. I'm actually shocked how bright these are. I've not really ever been one for having LED lights on the exterior of my vehicles, because I find that maybe I'm buying cheap ones. They're just not as bright as what I took out. I especially don't like them in the tail lights. You want them brake lights as bright as you can get them. Alright, we've got all our electrical jobs done in the cab. So now we're going to check our leak. So you can see here, I've got the battery interrupter open, and I've got our ammeter across that. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, it fluctuates, but on average we've got 2 milliamps flowing. It doesn't sound like much, but eventually that will kill the battery. So there's a few things you can do. You can go inside and start pulling all the fuses out until you find the problem. What I'm going to do right now is look at stuff that's been added on. So we've got this here, that wire goes into the cab for the fog lights, and you can see it's right off the battery. So we're going to see if we unplug that, if anything happens. That accomplished nothing. Now we're going to go in the cab and pull all the fuses. There we go. So let's go check our amp meter now. Well, you can see the draw is still there. Next thing we're going to do is take the power wire off the back of the alternator here. Well, that's weird. I accidentally knocked the lead off my meter, and it still showed 2 milliamps. So we've switched meters, and this one now is showing 1.6 microamps. And if you unhook it, it goes to 0. So I still have the fuses all out. I'm going to go start putting them back in one by one and see if this changes. Well, not sure I know how to explain this. There's obviously nothing of any major significance going on here. My 1.6 microamps are gone now. So, don't ask me. The one thing the truck has now that it didn't have before is this. So, every time I park it, I just open that, and I shouldn't really have any more problems. So, we'll go ahead and put the wire back on the alternator, and we'll double check. Well, everything's all back together, and you can see here there is no current moving anywhere in this thing, so I'm not really sure what all is going on. We'll keep an eye on it. And if it gets, you know, if it starts killing the battery, we'll look into it. But like I said, when it's parked, that gets open, so I don't think I'll have any trouble. Well, that's it for our electrical upgrades and repairs. We covered a bit of stuff there. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next section. I think we're going to be doing some stuff under the hood. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit the like button. That helps us a lot. And until we meet again, thanks for tuning in, and so long.